Thank you. These are beautiful.
I knew something was wrong the moment Sarah came home from her doctor's appointment. She had that look, the one I'd learned to recognize over our 3 years together. The look that meant she'd been crying in her car before coming inside. The look that meant she'd been holding something in and she wasn't sure how to let it out. I was making dinner when she walked in. Something simple, pasta with marinara, nothing fancy. She set down her purse and her keys, and she didn't come into the kitchen like she usually did. She went straight to the couch and sat down, her hands folded in her lap like she was bracing for impact. "Hey," I said, turning down the heat on the stove. "How did it go?" She didn't answer immediately. I watched her try to speak, watched her fail, watched her try again. "The doctor confirmed it," she said finally, and her voice was hollow in a way I'd never heard before. "I'm infertile. Completely. Not unexplained infertility, not low ovarian reserve, not maybe we can try IVF. I'm completely unable to have biological children." I set down my spoon and moved to the couch. Sarah had been having tests done for the past few months because we'd been trying to get pregnant. We'd been together since college, had moved in together 5 years ago, had gotten married 2 years ago with the assumption that kids were just something that would naturally follow. But months of trying had turned into a year, and she'd finally decided to get comprehensive testing done. I'd expected bad news, but hearing it said aloud made it feel different. Real. "Sarah," I started, but she held up her hand. "Before you say anything, I need you to know that I'm furious," she said, and now there were tears running down her face. "I'm furious at my body. I'm furious that I spent my entire life assuming I'd be able to have children, and now I can't. I'm furious that this is happening to us. And I'm terrified that you're going to resent me for this. That you married me thinking we'd have kids, and now I'm taking that away from you." "Sarah, no," I said. "I'm not done," she said quietly. "I'm also terrified that this is going to change how you feel about me. That you're going to look at me and see someone broken. Someone who can't give you what you want. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." She was shaking now, and I pulled her into my arms. She resisted for a moment, then collapsed into me, sobbing in a way that suggested she'd been holding this in for longer than just today. "I'm not going anywhere," I said into her hair. "And I don't think you're broken. I think you're dealing with something really hard, and we're going to figure it out together." "But you wanted kids," she said, her voice muffled against my chest. "You talk about it. You buy things thinking about it. You look at families and smile. You want biological children." I hadn't realized she was paying that much attention. I hadn't realized that my casual comments about wanting to be a father had become something she was monitoring, measuring her inability against. "I want to be a father," I said carefully. "But I want to be a father with you. And if that means biological children, okay. If it means adoption, okay. If it means fostering, or mentoring, or any of 1,000 other ways to be part of a child's life, okay. But the one thing that's not okay is you thinking that I'm going to leave you because your body works differently than we thought it would." She pulled back enough to look at me, her eyes red and swollen, her face blotchy from crying. "You can't mean that," she said. "I do," I replied. "I absolutely mean it. Sarah, I love you. Not your fertility. Not your ability to give me biological children. You. The person. The woman who makes me laugh at terrible jokes. The woman who cries at dog food commercials and gets angry about social justice issues and organizes her books by color. That's who I love. And that person is still here." The next few weeks were hard. Sarah went through the anger and grief and despair that comes with learning your body won't do something you'd always assumed it would. She had days where she was fine, and days where she couldn't get out of bed. She had moments where she lashed out at me for no reason, and moments where she held my hand so tightly I thought my circulation would cut off. I learned things about infertility that I'd never had to think about before. I learned that it's not just a medical issue, it's an identity issue. That for women, there's a particular kind of grief that comes with the knowledge that your body won't do something it's supposed to be able to do. That there's shame involved, even though there shouldn't be. That the world around her, with pregnant women everywhere and family members asking when we'd have kids, suddenly felt cruel and pointed. I also learned what it meant to be the partner of someone grieving this. I learned to listen without trying to fix it. To sit with her in the sadness without offering platitudes about, "it happens for a reason," or, "there are other options." To understand that grief isn't linear, and today's acceptance doesn't mean tomorrow's despair won't return. About a month after her diagnosis, I came home from work to find Sarah at the kitchen table with a laptop open, surrounded by printed pages. "I've been researching," she said without preamble. "Adoption. Foster to adopt. International adoption. Private adoption. Domestic adoption. All of it." I pulled out a chair and sat down, looking at the pages she'd printed. "Why?" I asked gently. "Because I realized something," she said, and there was a determination in her voice that I hadn't heard in weeks. "I realized that I've been grieving what I can't have, and I haven't been thinking about what I can have. And I can have a child. I just won't be making that child biologically. But that doesn't make the child any less mine. It doesn't make parenthood any less real." She looked at me, and her eyes were clearer than they'd been in a long time. "I want to adopt," she said. "I know that was supposed to be a backup plan. Something we did if biological kids didn't work out. But I don't want it to be second best. I want to choose it. I want to go into this knowing that we're choosing to be parents through adoption, not settling for it because we have to." I reached across the table and took her hand. "Then we adopt," I said. "Let's do it." The adoption process was longer and more complex than I'd expected. There were home studies and interviews and background checks. There were forms and fees and training sessions. There were emotional hurdles, like confronting the fact that we were going to be raising a child whose trauma and story we wouldn't fully know. Like understanding that adoption comes with a unique set of challenges that biological parenting doesn't. But there was also something beautiful about it. Every step we took was an intentional choice. We weren't just creating life. We were choosing to invite life into our home. We weren't going through pregnancy and childbirth. We were going through this process together, as equals, both equally invested in the outcome. Sarah seemed to heal as we moved through each stage. It wasn't a linear healing. There were still moments of grief when she saw pregnant women or thought about what could have been. But those moments were balanced by moments of genuine excitement about the possibility of parenthood through adoption. 8 months into the process, we got the call. There was a 3-year-old boy named Marcus whose mother had lost custody due to substance abuse. He'd been in foster care for a year, and the state was looking for an adoptive family. The social worker described him: smart, funny, traumatized but resilient, struggling with attachment but capable of love. We said yes before she finished talking. The first day Marcus came to our house, he wouldn't look at either of us. He was small for his age, with dark eyes that seemed to look through everything instead of at it. He carried a backpack with everything he owned in the world. He sat on our couch in the middle of the room, not touching anything, barely breathing. Sarah sat next to him, not forcing interaction, just existing near him. I made dinner, chicken nuggets and mac and cheese, nothing fancy. When it was ready, I asked if he was hungry. He nodded very slightly. We ate in near silence, but it wasn't an uncomfortable silence. It was the silence of people learning how to be around each other. That night, when the social worker came to pick him up, Marcus didn't cry when he left. But he did look at Sarah for just a moment, and she smiled at him, and I saw something shift in his expression. Not acceptance, but maybe curiosity. Maybe the smallest seed of possibility. It took 3 months of visits before Marcus moved in permanently. 3 months of him slowly learning that we weren't going to hurt him, that we weren't going to give him back, that we were choosing him, again and again, every single day. The day we signed the papers and made him legally ours, Sarah cried. Not the grief tears of months ago, but something different. Something that looked like joy and relief and the strange, complicated love that comes from choosing someone who was already yours before the paperwork made it official. 2 years later, I'm sitting on the back porch watching Marcus play in the yard. He's 5 now, confident and hilarious and occasionally infuriating in the way all 5-year-olds are. He doesn't remember the foster homes or the uncertainty. He just remembers our house, and his mom, and his dad. Sarah comes out with lemonade and sits next to me. She takes my hand and rests her head on my shoulder. "I was thinking," she says, "about adding to our family. Not biologically, but adoption again. There are so many kids who need homes. I look at her, and I see the woman I married, but transformed by the journey we've been through. I see her at peace with her body, not because it suddenly healed, but because she stopped measuring her worth by what it could produce. Yeah, I say. I'd like that. Marcus runs over with a dead bug to show us, and we both make appropriately impressed sounds. This is our life now. Not the one we'd planned, but infinitely better because it's the one we chose, piece by piece, step by step, person by person. Later, when Marcus is in bed and we're alone, Sarah turns to me and says something I'll never forget. "Thank you," she says. "For what?" I ask. "For not leaving. For not making me feel like my body was the problem. For choosing adoption not because you had to, but because you wanted to. For making it feel like this was the right path all along, not the consolation prize." I kiss her forehead. "Sarah, the moment you told me you were infertile, I knew what mattered. It wasn't biological children. It was being a parent with you. And now we are. And Marcus is ours. And he's perfect. And none of it would have happened the way it did if your body had worked differently. So maybe your body knew something we didn't. Maybe it knew we needed to go this route to find our family." She smiles, and it's the kind of smile that says she believes me. Not because my words were magic, but because 3 years of consistent love and presence have shown her that I meant what I said. Infertility took something from us that we'd expected to have. But in the taking, it gave us something better, the chance to be the kind of parents who chose their child deliberately, who built their family through intention rather than biology, who know that love isn't about DNA. It's about showing up, every single day, for the people who matter most. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more heartfelt tales, and drop a comment letting us know where you're listening from. We'd love to hear your thoughts and connect with you. Thanks for being part of the Unscripted Stories community.